The document I'm going to talk to you about is a contextual analysis and interpretation of the poem entitled London. The author is William Blake. It was published in Songs of Experience in 1794. Songs of Experience is a poetry collection of 26 poems illustrated by William Blake. The genre is a poem that was written in the early Romantic period, which is characterized by its emphasis on emotion and individualism, suspicion of science, idealization of nature, and glorification of the past. The political and economic atmosphere at the time heavily influenced this period. Manual labor was replaced by machine-based production. People moved from agriculture areas to towns. The themes are childhood, urban life, and corruption. It is an overt theme since it is stated plainly. The author does not try to hide the theme. Um, the title can hint the theme, the mood, which is gloomy, the tone, which is pessimistic, uh, and it can also have some symbols, um, in this case, death and despair. The message in London is cruelty and injustice occurring in society and the criticism of the monarchy, church, society, prostitution, and marriage. First stanza. I wander through each charted street. Um, the speaker, William Blake, provides setting and tone. First line reveals that the speaker walks through a street. It is a first person narrative. The term wander makes the speaker not quite sure of himself. He feels misguided. The term charter suggests that the streets are rigid and controlled, like he's walking on a confined, mapped out area. Near where the charter themes does flow. Um, the word charters is referring to maps. Maps are an attempt to impose order on nature. Um, and just like how in this poem order is being placed in society. So you can say that um, uh, you can say that charter is symbolizing how order is taking place in society. And marks in every face I meet, marks of weakness, marks of woe. As the speaker walks, he notices faces and describes their faces as marks of weakness and woe. This sets up the tone as pessimistic and serious. Second stanza. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear. Um, you get some insight into the speaker's feelings towards the poor citizens as he passes them. He means the cry of every newborn infant and the cry of every full-grown adult man. The cry of every man symbolizes the devastated mood around town. Um, in every voice, in every band, the mind-thought manacles I hear. The mind-thought manacles is a metaphor for change created by the people's own ideas as imprisonment. This poem was written in the Romantic period, which also explains the author's choice of words like mind-thought manacles. It also expresses the speaker's devastating, despairing view of the poor citizens of London around him. Um, how the chimney sweepers cry. Um, Here, the author William Blake explains how the chimney sweepers was one of the poorest of society. Their life expectancy was low because of the poor conditions, and this gives a desperate tone and makes the reader consider the poor working conditions at the time. Every blackening church appalls. Um, the speaker criticized the church by calling it blackening and claims that the church appalls at the chimney sweepers, meaning horrifying the chimney sweepers. Um, at the time, chimney sweepers were usually children raised by the church, um, and the reason why there were children was because they were small enough to get down the chimneys and clean the chimneys. And the hapless soldiers sign. They all criticized the government because of how they treated the soldiers. Runs a blood down palace walls. Uh, Here the author reveals his feelings towards war by describing how the soldiers' blood runs down the palace walls, which is a metaphor because their blood does not actually run down palace walls, but it's a metaphor for how they've sacrificed so much of their lives and time. And yeah, the palace being where the royalty lived, thus accusing the higher ups in society of wasting precious lives in order for them to keep living in peace and comfort. And you can also say the palace walls is like um, the higher ups in the society in this case symbolizes them. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlots curse. Um, yeah, the speaker reveals how society attacks innocence by implying that a girl who was yet to mature would be involved in prostitution, cursing at the tears of a newborn baby rather than comforting it. This also reveals the hardened heart of the harlot, which represents the state of the society at the time. This is why I think that urban life is one of the main themes of the poem. Um, and Blacks with Plagues the Marriage Hears. This is the speaker's thoughts on marriage. Marriage hears in this context symbolizes death. He criticizes marriage because unmarried harlots are running around and babies seem to have no mothers, no fathers. Um, Overall, the message in the poem is cruelty and injustice occurring in society, and the criticism of the monarchy, church, society, prostitution, and marriage. The poem has many themes, but I think the main theme in this poem is urban life, because there's a lot of you hear a lot of these how the harlots curse, the chimney sweepers cry, and the cry of every man. It's really urban. Um, I would like to parallel this poem to J.M.W. Turner, Rain, Steam and Speed. Rain, Steam and Speed is a painting from 1844, which is a train driving on a bridge. Or the differences between the painting and the poem are that the painting was painted at the beginning of the Victorian period and at the end of the Industrial Revolution, and the poem was written in the beginning of the Romantic period. The way the painting reflects the period it was drawn in is by representing the Industrial Revolution very well. The train was one of the major inventions in the Industrial Revolution. The painting also hints danger of man's modern technology by competing with elements of nature. William Blake's poem does not reflect the period it was written in very well. The Romantic period was very optimistic, offers romanticized society, nature, and childhood, but William Blake criticized the established church and the English monarchy, describing them as tyrannical and oppressive authorities. His poem is pessimistically portrait of the miserable conditions of English society of the late 18th century. Um, this concludes my contextual analysis and interpretation of London by William Blake.